Hi, my name is Nathan. You're watching Nice at Dice, and today I'm talking about this game, Specter Ops. But specifically, I'm talking about a new expansion for Specter Ops called the Arctic Archives. Now, I've already done a full review of Specter Ops. If you want to go see that review, there'll be a link in the description to this video. You can go check that out. But today we're just looking at this small expansion that was just released for Specter Ops. So I can't show you the packaging for the expansion because it just comes shrink wrapped. It's just a board and a few components. But I'll take you down to the desk here, show you what is involved in this expansion, and we'll come back up here and I'll give you my thoughts on it. All right, so first off, you have a little rule sheet that runs you through the rules for these new terminals and barriers. It's a new feature of this map. Also tells you that this has the supply caches that the Broken Covenant map had, but it tells you to refer to the rulebook in Specter Ops Broken Covenant if you want to know how those work. And then it has some frequently asked questions on the back with answers. So that's nice. And of course you have a pad of sheets here for the agent player to use on the new map. And then you have the new map itself. So let's go ahead and open this up and try and give you a bit of a look at it. It is the same size as the other maps. Works functionally the same. It has an interesting layout to it that's fun to play on. The main new thing is the terminals and the barriers, like I said. So you have spots like this where it has this symbol here that indicates a terminal. And then you have spots like this right next to it where you have these two purple bars across the space that indicates a space for a barrier. And then it also has these three tokens here that are the barriers themselves. So basically, if any player, agent or hunter, is starting their turn adjacent to a terminal, they can put out three of these barriers anywhere that there are spots to put barriers. So they could put them there and there and there, for example. Or you can move them. So if there's already three out on the board and you activate the terminal, over here, then you could say move this one to that spot and this one to that spot and maybe leave that one where it is. So that's an option. And if you are a hunter, not an agent, then you have the option to simply remove barriers from the board. Barriers block movement and line of sight. You can't place a barrier on a spot where there's already somebody standing or where the vehicle is parked. If the hunters are going to place a barrier somewhere where the agent happens to be, then the agent tells them, you can't put the barrier there because I'm there, basically. And so then that gives away where the agent is. Where the agent is, but the hunters can't close that barrier. So there is that. That's basically what is involved here. One other little thing, though, is on the back of this board, it's double-sided. And on the back of this board is basically a reprint of the map from Specter Ops Broken Covenant. The map in Broken Covenant had some errors on it, and so this is a reprint of that board with those errors corrected. So that's what's involved in this expansion. We'll go back up and I'll give you my thoughts on it. All right, so that is the Arctic Archives expansion for Specter Ops. Now, maybe worth noting, Specter Ops, there's been two games, the original Specter Ops, which is sometimes called Shadow of Babylon, and then there's Specter Ops Broken Covenant. The Arctic Archives will work with either, although if you are using the Arctic Archives, it does have the supply cache mechanism, which is something that was introduced in Broken Covenant. You won't be able to use that aspect of the map unless you have Broken Covenant. But otherwise, it is still usable with the original Specter Ops. And it works perfectly with Broken Covenant. So, what is this? What do I think about this as an expansion? Well, it's cool. Like I said, it's an interesting map. It has an interesting layout. The various roads and pathways make for interesting movement in line of sight and so forth. The new mechanism with placing the barriers on the map, that's pretty cool. That's interesting in that It makes the map more dynamic. There's something about the map that can change apart from just the location of the different characters on the map. It allows you to block, as the hunters, you can block off certain areas to try and prevent the agent from escaping or moving towards his objectives. And as the agent, you can use it to block line of sight so that you can safely move through areas without being seen. You can also sort of use it to, to sort of bluff about where you might be. You could intentionally block line of sight to an area where you're not even at or going to be, to maybe draw attention to that spot. So there's a lot of different ways that the barriers can be used. It's a neat mechanism. I think it adds something fun to the game. Now, the one minor complaint that I'm going to say about this, and I think it's a minor one for me personally, but it might mean more to other people, is unlike the boards in the original game or in Broken Covenant, which are 6-panel boards that fold down into a square shape, this is a 4-panel board that folds down into a rectangle, and so as you can see, it's not going to be able to fit into the box of the base game or Broken Covenant. So I'm going to have to keep this on my shelf next to the box, which is not a huge deal, but it's a little bit of a nuisance. Now, the reason for that, my understanding is it was cheaper to produce, a 4-panel board instead of a 6-panel board. And it seems like what Plaid Hat Games, the publisher of Specter Ops, was really trying to do here is when they published Broken Covenant, the board had some errors on it, and some people were upset about those errors. I mentioned it in my review of Specter Ops. I feel like it's a minor problem. It doesn't really affect gameplay. Many people are not even going to notice it as they're playing. If they do notice it, it's just going to cause maybe a few minutes of confusion, and then you kind of figure out, oh, I guess they made a mistake here, and then you move on. It doesn't really impact the experience of playing the game. They provided a free sheet of stickers to anyone who requested them that you can put on the board to correct those errors. So they did that as a way to address that problem. But still, there are people saying, hey, we want, a reprint of the board with corrections. Now, I think most people would like to receive that board for free, but that's not a financially viable option for a small company like Plaid Hat Games. So this was kind of their answer to that. They reprinted the board with the corrections and made it available for the lowest price that they could, which is less than $10. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like $7 or $8 is what I paid for it, plus shipping, but shipping was minimal where I live in the United States. I understand shipping's much more in other countries, so that could be a problem. But basically, they wanted to provide it at the lowest possible price so that those who wanted it could get it without feeling like they're being charged an arm and a leg for a correction to a game that they've already paid for. And to add value to that, they printed a brand new map on the other side of the board and threw in, the couple of extra things to give that new map the functionality so that it also serves as an expansion. So now it's like, I'm going to pay $7.50, maybe $8 to correct the board from Broken Covenant, but I'm also getting expansion content to kind of sweeten the deal for me. And from that perspective, I think that's fine. I think it's a good solution to what was a minor problem to begin with. Some people are going to feel like they screwed up again because the board doesn't fit in the box. I get that, I understand that, but again, knowing what they were trying to do, or what it seems like they were trying to do, which was to provide a solution at the lowest possible cost to the consumer, I think they did the best they could. They had to make decisions somewhere. They could have gone with a 6-panel board, but it would have cost more, and then people would have said, now I have to pay an arm and a leg for this corrected board. So I think kind of in a tight spot there. Any way they went, they were going to get some complaints. So I'm satisfied with this solution. Like I said, again, the problem was a minor problem. The solution is a good solution, not a perfect solution, but a good one. So overall, I think there's a net positive there. And the expansion content is cool. One other thing I think is worth noting about this board compared to the board in Broken Covenant, and I think the original game, though it's been a while since I played on that board, so I can't say 100%, but this has like a matte finish, which I think may also have been done to reduce the cost, but I think actually works out nicer. I know for sure the Broken Covenant board has like a shiny, glossy finish, and to me that just in a game where being able to read the board easily is very important. That glossy finish just made it more difficult to read what was actually going on the board. So the matte finish is actually an improvement to that, I think. So in any case, it's fine. It's an interesting expansion. The new map is interesting. The new mechanism with the barriers is really cool. It does sort of solve the problem from Broken Covenant, depending on how you look at it. Maybe it's just exchange one problem for another, but maybe the new problem is going to be less of a big deal to you than the old problem. So maybe that's an improvement. Overall, I'm happy with it. I think it's pretty cool. That's Specter Ops Arctic Archives. Again, you can only buy this from Plaid Hat Games web store. I'll put a link in the description if you want to go there to find it. And again, my name is Nathan. You're watching Nice at Dice. Thank you so much for watching, and you enjoy the rest of your day.